we started off meeting the Shadow Council. Moff Gideon seems to be kind of the main kind of protagonist now, but they're very much like we were like, are we going to see Grand Admiral Thrawn at the end of it? Is it going to be like a little teaser like Thanos at the end of Avengers, like a post-credit thing where we just see him and everyone talks about him, but we don't know who he is? No, they're mentioned. They're like, Grand Admiral Thrawn is coming back, motherfuckers. They're just saying it and saying the quiet part loud and kind of taking any kind of doubt off the table, which I love. And we know from the Ahsoka trailer that that's happening, so that's fine. But we did meet the likes of people who you'll recognize, even if you don't watch kind of the old TV shows. If you watch the sequel trilogy, you'll recognize the name Hux. Obviously, not the Hux that we know, Donald Gleason's character. Fans of the likes of the Tron books will recognize particularly Pelion. Can you talk me through and give me some context as to who they are? And then kind of what your thoughts were on the Shadow Council. And feel free to theorize.
Okay.
We're in a free space.
Okay, well, I'll talk about the two of them first, and then we can talk about the council.
Yeah.
Obviously, Hux. We know the name as soon as we heard the name. Even when you didn't hear the name, you're looking at him and going, "He's kind of familiar, isn't he?" The fact that Hux, this Hux, is the father of General Hux from the sequel trilogy. What I found very interesting, though, and I thought this was fantastic casting, that it was actually Donald Gleason's brother Brian, who actually plays Hux in the show. And that's why people are going, he does look familiar, doesn't he? That's the fact that they're brothers. Absolutely fantastic. Hux is basically a guy who is into cloning. And as soon as you hear that, you realize, right, it's leading to the cloning of Snoke, and then ultimately the stuff with Palpatine in the return of Rise of Skywalker. So that's who basically Hux is. Pelion is a character that I don't know too much about, but I know enough about to be very, very excited. Because as soon as I see him and the name was mentioned, I was like, I know this guy. And I had to do my little bit of research. Yeah. Captain Pelion is basically the right-hand man of Admiral Thrawn. And if you didn't know that from what he was saying, all you have to do is have a look into books and stuff like that has Pelion in it. Pelion is the commander of Thrawn's fleet. And Thrawn's fleet was not small. It's not like Gideon's light cruiser and a couple of things around. No. Thrawn's fleet was fucking huge.
Army.
We're talking about dozens of Imperial class Star Destroyers. So this is not like a throwaway thing. This is like huge battle implications that we could potentially get down the line. Pelion is a fantastic character. And I think his casting, I don't actually know the guy's name, but he's been in loads of things. I remember him originally from 24. When he was in 24, he was one of the FBI agents 24. He was fantastic. He's such an arsehole in 24. And I can just imagine that Pelion is going to be an absolute bollocks throughout this whole thing. He's going to be absolutely fantastic. But in terms of the Shadow Council, there was a lot of Imperial warlords, is what they're being called there. But the Shadow Council was actually created a couple of years before that, around about the time of the Battle of Jakku. Obviously, we know Jakku from the sequel trilogy, but the Battle of Jakku happened over the course of a couple of books, the Aftermath books, which were fantastic books. If you have not read them, I would highly recommend it. The last one is I believe it's called Empire's End. Now that just kind of shows you exactly what happens. But it was a massive battle over Jakku between the Imperial Remnant, which had super Star Destroyers and a huge fleet, against the New Republic, which was when you're reading it, or actually reading it is great. And I love reading books, but when you listen to the audiobook, you get more of a visual in your mind when you're listening to audiobooks. And absolutely fantastic.
Star Wars audiobooks in particular, I really recommend, because they start with the Star Wars music, they play the characters. You have, the Tron audiobooks I read over the past couple of years, I really recommend them, because you have Lars Mikkelsen. You've got the Thrawn voicing it, and it really adds to it. Like, again, I usually read the book and then listen to the audiobook if you're going back to it. But this, I'd very much like go with the audiobooks. They're brilliant.
Yeah. But in terms of obviously the Battle of Jakku, you've got two main kind of bad guys in it, which would have been oh God, now I've forgotten his name. Gallius Rex, who is an admiral, and then there was Grand Admiral Sloane. So you'll kind of touch on that Grand Admiral. There weren't many Grand Admirals, and Sloane, she basically wanted to be the one to rule the Empire, but not a lot of people wanted her to rule the Empire. So that's where the Shadow Council came from, and all of these guys that were there during the Shadow Council on Mando, they're known as Imperial warlords. So it make to the galaxy, they're making it look like, well, this is my part of the galaxy. I'm not going to give it up, and this is my part. But in actuality, they're all actually working together for a common purpose, and that's to bring the Empire back. To bring the Empire back, and their leader, their new leader, to be Grand Admiral Thrawn.